Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, are Democrats in trouble? Also, Representative David Cole is deposed, and the legislature moves to ban drag shows. What's a girl do?
Do I just stand here like an object?
No. You do an eclectic celebration of the dance. You do fussy, fussy, fussy. You do Martha Graham, Martha Graham, Martha Graham. Or Twyla, Twyla, Twyla. Or Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd. Or Madonna, Madonna, Madonna. But you keep it all inside.
March, baby, march. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist at APR and investigative reporter. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
Hi, guys.
You know, as we sort of forewarned last week, a major news outlet was going to break the story that the Biden administration was considering seriously not relocating Space Command to Alabama. Mm-hmm. And according to NBC, that is just what's happening at the White House. And Josh, part of the consideration, a large part of the consideration that we're hearing is that the abortion issue in Alabama, because it's one of the most restrictive in the United States, has given pause not only to the White House, but to the military. Add to that Tommy Tuberville's hold on generals and flag officers' promotions, and his cozying up to white nationalists hasn't helped. Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's essentially tried to redefine the white nationalist and embrace them at the same time. So no, that's you're right. It has not helped. That's what official quoted by NBC News said. And you know, we saw this coming last week. We'd heard rumblings about this, that some things were in the works, so to speak, and that Alabama could be, getting the rug pulled out from underneath it simply because of what we had done in terms of the abortion issue. Is right. You know, we have the one of the most restrictive in the country, and I think a lot of military leaders and the White House are concerned about putting a new military station here and subjecting the service members who come here to essentially what is, I know we don't want to get into an argument about this, but essentially this is based on religious ideology. And so I think that is a big holdup for a lot of the Biden administration and this particular part of the country where these laws have grown after the Roe decision last summer. And so I think it's going to be a big problem for us.
Susan, your thoughts?
Well, you know, it's also a big issue, but I think it's been brought further to light by his holding up of the military promotions. It's really put a point on it that can't be ignored because he's holding up our military. He's actually endangering troops. He's endangering processes, and that is something that they take pretty seriously. And you got to remember, part of this is a military installation, so I don't blame them.
I mean, Josh, it's called the health and welfare and readiness of our armed forces. Right. You know, if you have women that need IVF treatment or an abortion, the military does not pay for either. What they pay for is for an individual to travel to another state where those services are readily available. They are not in Alabama. And, you know, here's sort of the notion that's been on my mind for a while. Most people can hold two ideas in their head at one time. And one of the ideas says that, yes, I'm against abortion. I'm not in favor of abortion. But you can also hold the idea equally that says, according to, the dictates of your heart, the government should not interfere with the bodily autonomy of a man or a woman. Here, the government of Alabama is interfering with the bodily autonomy of a woman against what she may feel is best for her. Susan?
And that's this is nothing new, but yes, it is, and where, you can also be, it's kind of like, I feel like it's not my business what happens with somebody else's body, and it's certainly not the government's, but that's just my own personal stance.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying, and a lot of people drew the comparisons, back to the vaccine for COVID and the requirements for that, but you're not likely to catch pregnancy from a woman,
Despite
and so
what our
wear a
parents
mask.
said.
right, exactly, yeah, and it's a. I think we all have our own feelings about abortions, and they're varied and they're nuanced, and I think because of that, you should be able to see the struggle that maybe a commander-in-chief would have with a state where currently there's a bill sponsored by 5 people that want to put women to death, basically, for having what is a legal medical procedure a state over. And so, I think it gives you great pause if you're the commander-in-chief of service members to look at this and see this. And then on top of that, you have this guy in the Senate, one of our highest ranking officers here, drawing attention to himself over military promotions and holding up military promotions. And then at the same time, he's done all sorts of different things. We're being complicit with the January 6th folks, making all sorts of racist comments about reparations or reparation, and then the latest stuff with the white nationalists. And it has to give you pause if you're in charge of the military to look at what's going on in this state.
It does give any thinking person, I think, pause. I mean, Tuberville says he's sincere in his belief. But as one Republican said, reported by The Hill, that if he's really sincere about this, hold up agencies, not the whole promotion of military and endanger the readiness of our country. Now, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say that you're right about that, and I want to say there has been a lot of great people in Huntsville who worked hard up here to make it better and make it more attractive, and I hate this for them. I really do, but this is the state in which we live.
Well, it is, but one thing happened very important in the state of Alabama this week. Our legislators down in Montgomery have chosen a state cookie. So on top of prison reform and healthcare crisis and all that, we now have a state cookie. And seriously, I recommend the 4th graders who came up with the recipe of peanuts and pecans for our state cookie. But
the Yellowhammer cookie, isn't that what it's called?
The Yellowhammer
so.
cookie. And I guess it's 2 pieces of cookie with peanut butter and pecans.
Bird feathers.
Is that right?
Oh,
no,
I'm sorry.
But congratulations to the kids.
Congratulations.
It was probably one of the best things our legislators did this past week. We're going to leave it right there. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics.
When I first started off, it was all about being an entrepreneur. Very quickly, it went into all the environmental impact that we're having on our world right now. We needed a technology that could do something with all the plastics that are harder to recycle. We innovated and created a technology, advanced recycling.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Today, Montgomery is a safer city. It's time to shift the narrative and take control of our future. We're reopening community centers, remediating blight, and revitalizing neighborhoods across the city. And we're unleashing new opportunities. Over the past year, companies have invested a record-setting $2 billion in Montgomery and created 2,000 jobs. This is a new Montgomery. And together, we're reimagining the possibilities.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. You know, Susan, voter integrity. We hear that from our Republican friends all the time. They're talking about election integrity, voter integrity, that every vote should count and every election should be fair. And Josh, a story that you broke 1 month before the elections, the midterm elections, is that Representative David Cole, he's Dr. Cole, he ran for Representative District 10. He does not appear to live in District 10. And he tried in every way possible, and our Republican friends have tried in numerous ways to get this guy off the hook because it's against the law. It's against the law in Alabama to run for a seat in a district where you don't live.
And fraudulently fill out paperwork.
It's fraud.
Fraud.
Now, this has gone so far as he's gone to the Supreme Court and he's lost. But you go ahead and tell us about it, Josh.
Yeah, no, you're right. The fraud that he allegedly has committed is that he falsified his address on his filing documents to run for office. He used the address of a family friend and claimed it as his own. His house used to be in District 10. His house is no longer in District 10. It was drawn out of District 10 during the last reapportionment, and that house is now in District 4. Instead of moving into the district in which he wanted to run 1 year prior to the general election, which is the state law, instead, he simply put his friend's address on his filing documents and claimed that he was leasing space from the friend, which he has never really lived at this place, of course. And, so that's election fraud, man. If that's true, if all that is true and he did this, that is election fraud. That's committing fraud, is fooling people into believing that you're in the district and following the law. And now people voted for him and put him in office. And you're right. I have no faith that the Republicans are going to come down on this guy and do the right thing and follow the law in this instance, because they've already tried to bail him out.
Well,
yeah, they tried to do it in a bill just a couple of weeks ago. It kind of mysteriously went away when it got pointed out. But nevertheless, they were trying to cover it and say once it's certified, which is immediately after the election, there's no real time to challenge it, that it would hold. Yeah. Even though the guy at the bottom of that document, every one of us have ever signed any contract, any document, any kind, knows that one little phrase right above your signature line that says, is all of this information true?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing that bothered me, they tried to give him a get out of jail free bill. But the thing is, he gave deposition this past Wednesday. Those depositions will be given to the Alabama House. Hopefully there will be a public hearing so we can all see what's in those depositions, because right now they're under seal. We can't see them.
That's right.
But the House
I would love to see it. I would love to hear the reasoning. And listen, I'm going to tell you that if they let him off, somebody's going to answer for why they let him off. There's going to be some questions asked about, and somebody's going to have to give a real explanation for why he was allowed to skate on this, because it is fairly obvious to any objective person, I believe, what's going on here.
It's clear. The man lives in District 4. He ran in District 10. He was elected in District 10, still living in District 4. What else do you need to know here?
I've heard people say, real quickly, well, he just lives pretty close to that district. Well, what's close enough? What is close enough? I mean, could he live in Decatur and still represent the Huntsville area? Could he live in Mobile and represent the Huntsville area? Where do you draw the line?
You draw the line at where the district line was drawn by the Republican Party. That's where you draw the line.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you live 2 feet over on the other side of the line. It doesn't count. I have to believe, I do, that Speaker of the House Nathaniel Ledbetter, Scott Staghagen, and some of these people have more integrity than to allow a cheat to sit in their midst. Now, they've allowed felons, they've allowed criminals, but they weren't preaching against fraud and criminality then. They've been preaching about election fraud.
And I wonder how Josh Pendergrass feels about this. You know, that's my concern. I wonder how Josh Pendergrass feels about this. You know, they did the same thing to him. He bowed out and didn't run.
Yeah. Well, no matter what you might think of Josh, in that instance, he had some integrity. Josh, it appears the Democratic Party in Alabama is in trouble once again with the DNC.
Yeah, this is not a surprise. I think everybody kind of saw this coming. They got a letter from the Rules and Bylaws Committee's co-chairs, basically saying that if these bylaws are what everybody is saying they are, and that they seem to treat other minority groups unfairly, that they're going to have some problems, and they're not going to let them stand, and it could jeopardize them placing delegates at the party primary in where I can't remember where the Democratic National Convention is this coming year, but it's they're in jeopardy anyways.
Isn't it in Chicago of all
I think
places?
it is in Chicago.
Yeah,
yes,
Chicago,
I think it is in Chicago.
Yeah, because that 68 thing went so well for him up there in Chicago.
They're trying to move it closer to Obama so he'd come.
I mean, seriously, moving caucuses into now committees, which Joe Reed controls what committees you have. He controls what people are on the committees, and that would be controlling their vote because they don't want to get kicked off the committee. Come on now. Really?
I do not understand why a man like Joe Reed and his son has a bright future, but his son gets tagged with all this nonsense that he does. Stephen Reed is one of our bright stars in politics.
Really is.
And Joe Reed's time is over. He's had his time. I don't understand why you can't just let go of that power, because all this seems to be is a power play. The Democratic Party is already in trouble in Alabama. Why make it worse?
Well, I think, it's tough for me to get into the mind of Joe Reed because he's lived a long life and has fought a lot of battles, a lot of really, really good battles, and so I think first and foremost, Joe Reed is a fighter on things, and so he wants to fight when he believes he's been wronged, and I think he thinks in his mind he's been wronged here, that the control of this party should be left up to him and the Black Caucus, and that's what they fought for many years, and that over the course of the last several years, a lot of white people have abandoned the party and left them alone and to fend for themselves, and so if that's the case, they should be able to run it. Now, I don't agree with what they've done, and I just think that there's no pathway forward for this party if we don't go back to what those bylaws were that were more inclusive and brought more people into the party.
I agree. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Throughout my career, I've seen many crashes, and a lot of the fatalities are from people who haven't worn their seatbelt.
Cars have rolled over multiple times.
I've had people end up in lakes, ravines. I've been looking for people in the woods for a couple hours before.
Usually just about every bone in their body is broken, their organs have ruptured, and typically they die.
You want to save a life, just simply click a button and put that seatbelt on.
Seatbelts really do save lives.
My dog Jupiter is frightened when I climb too high, the owl said.
Check for monsters, Daddy.
I did, honey. There are no monsters. You're perfectly safe.
Protect yourself and those you love. Vaccinate now.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, poor old things at the legislature. They're so preoccupied with sex these days. It makes me kind of wonder, right?
It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
Everything's about sex. Everybody else is sex, because they're not having any down there. Since they got rid of back pages and that other place where they got their hookups from. But anyway, all seriousness, there's a bill in the House this week where they want to be able to define what a woman or a man is, Susan.
They certainly do. And the woman has ovaries essentially, and that a man has the ability to fertilize those ovum. All right. So if we're going to define this, am I going to have to worry about exactly that the word police are going to come around and arrest me if I say the wrong thing? And back to the bathrooms, when it comes down to and they say that's part of what this is about, is who goes to what bathroom.
Right.
Okay, how many people are you going to hire to stand in between the men's and women's bathrooms and ask them to drop their drawers before they can go to the bathroom?
Well, Patricia Todd, one of our favorites, she's the first out gay lawmaker in Alabama's history, although there were plenty of gay ones before, they just didn't come out. She said, we've got the gender police now, Josh.
Yeah, it's honestly, I watched this hearing in the House Health Committee, and about 2 minutes or so into it, you just this overwhelming feeling of this is so stupid. Just washed over you. Yeah, I mean, because all the other problems that we have in this state, and healthcare problems. There are many healthcare problems out there that the Health Committee could be addressing. But this one, and you had people stand up there was a transgender woman who stood up and talked about, this bill basically is going to force me to go to a male restroom. Is that what you want? You want me, you want me in the male restroom, or do you want me in a male prison? And it's just a logical thing, and it's so counter of or so ignorant of science and basic reason, and it's just all drummed up because people don't understand this in their daily lives. They never have this encounter with transgender people, and it's an easy target for dumb legislators to bring bills to draw attention to themselves.
Well, Josh, you just got a mark on your permanent record. You said transgender woman. Tick. Mm-hmm. Does she have ovaries? Tick.
I don't know.
You just violate the law right there, buddy.
I just don't.
That's how absurd it is.
Again,
that's how stinking absurd it is.
This was not an issue until someone at the national level of the Republican parties said, hey, let's go after transgender kids. Mm-hmm. And then once they went after transgender kids, they went after transgender everybody.
Because they have no policies for solutions.
Yeah. Well, and transgender people are easy.
Policies.
Transgender people are easy targets because there's such a small percentage, a tiny percentage of them in the U.S. population, that most people never have an encounter with a transgender person. So they don't have to interact with somebody in their family, most likely, that explains the nuances of this to them, that humanizes the issue for them, like we did. Remember the gay marriage issue, and how many Republicans suddenly became pro-gay marriage as soon as their son or daughter or somebody came out as gay. Well, sure. You don't necessarily have that because there's such a small number of transgender people here. So it's just simply a bullying issue that they can use.
There you go. That's the word I was about to say. It comes down to one word, and that's bullying. That's all it is.
Again, in my mind, you should, people who say they oppose this on religious reasons and all that, I just go to the fact that you can hold two ideas in your mind at once, unless you're a moron. And one says, I may have a religious disbelief, a religious belief that says this is not good, but I also live in a constitutional republic where it's none of my business.
Exactly.
It's none of my business.
Well, the Republican Party didn't used to be about getting in your business.
No.
They're all in your business now. Watch it.
No, and they're all in the bedroom. They're obsessed with what goes on in people's bedrooms.
Are obsessed with
which used to be not the Republican Party. They used to care less. But it's like laissez-faire capitalism. Oh, we can't have that. That's woke, baby. That's woke. Not my grandpa's Republican Party, I can tell you that. Well, I tell you what was fun, and our reporters were there. The LBGTQ plus community was out in force in Montgomery this past week, and they marched from the Supreme Court over to the Capitol and then over to the State House in protest for all these stupid bills that are aimed at transgender kids and transgender this and transgender that.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
And it was quite the march, and apparently quite entertaining at some places in it, simply because the ones that were there that were objecting to the protest, they didn't get violent, they didn't do anything untoward. They just kind of covered them in rainbow flags, and so nobody could see them.
Well, there's worse things that can happen to you than be, than have rainbow flags and umbrellas waved in your face when you're yelling that somebody should burn in hell, right, Josh?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was a nice turnout, and it was good to see the coverage that they got. And it's like I said, it's always good to humanize folks who are kind of under attack by people that don't necessarily understand what those folks go through.
That's right. Hey, I want to take what they call in the House and Senate a point of personal privilege. Our good friend John Teague passed away on Mother's Day. John was not only a great lawmaker, a state senator and president pro tem, he was an outstanding lobbyist. He believed in his clients' causes. But Susan, he was a great friend to us, and all the people that he knew could count on John to be a wonderful human being. I know you, like me, about ready to cry, aren't you?
The most gentle soul I've ever met, and the most upstanding man, and great advocate for the state of Alabama. He's going to be greatly missed.
Yeah, Josh, you knew John, great guy.
Yeah, he was. He was. I think I posted somewhere on Facebook. That it's rare when you spend time around the State House to meet genuinely compassionate and caring people that treat you fairly and everybody likes. And John Teague was a guy like that. And you're right. He's going to be missed by a lot of people.
And he had a hug like nobody else's.
Well, John Teague was a great man, and I miss him dearly as a friend, and the state has lost a great statesman.